Do you need anything?
All right. Oh, I know, yeah. It's actually what yeah, it's like just amazing. Intro the video, and then you take stage, and Ash, you've got the slide through the question. Oh, okay. So will I'll do
Just hit next. Yeah.
Okay. So my question in the video.
Yeah. Better. I just had to run, and I'm like,
What? Where's the camera? All right, okay. Yeah, I'll be standing on the back. I actually will, because I totally ignore them.
entirely up to you. Entirely up to you.
Hi everybody, you're very welcome this evening. I'm just going to do a 2-minute introduction. My name is Natalie Walsh, I'm the Programme Manager here with Blackstone Launchpad on behalf of myself and Mary Carthy. We welcome you all. We're delighted to be partnering with the Social Innovation Fund and to be presenting ThinKTech to you with them this evening. So I'll pass over to Owen to kick you all off with a video.
Can you turn Ireland on its head? Do you have a new solution to solve a social issue? Are you using technology to affect change?
If the answer is yes, then the ThinkTech program could be the right fit for you.
ThinkTech is a €1 million fund which consists of 750,000 in funding
and a fully supported 5-month programme
for 3 or 4 innovative technology-based social solutions.
created by Social Innovation Fund Ireland with the support from Google.org and the Department of the Environment, Community and Local Government.
We want to support your projects to scale and spread.
So that they can have the greatest impact.
So, if you think your idea could turn Ireland on its head,
Find out how to apply today at socialinnovation.ie.
ThinkTech, ideas for a better Ireland.
Good evening. I'm going to turn everything on its head by starting on the back, because this is what, first of all, briefly, I think I've met nearly everyone here at this stage. One or two of you I haven't. How are you? I'm Bernard. I'm Bernard. So I like the important people. Anyway, what I want to say a couple of things this evening. First of all, the reason I'm here is because I want everyone to think slightly differently this evening. So we want a conversation, rather than it going all in one direction up there, to go that direction, across this direction, and everyone involved in a conversation where I think we should try and ask questions. I think very early on, we were just talking about earlier, we're in a learning institution here. So for all of us this evening should be a place where we go away having learned something, perhaps even answer some of our questions, and maybe in the whole area of social innovation, throwing up some new ideas, or even throwing up some of the difficulties and challenges that all of you are facing, will face, or even might face. To begin, I want to actually ask everyone not to do a very, very big intro. I'm aware of John Donoghue, who, God rest him, John was a philosopher and former priest who, at one stage he was talking about when he went to America his first time there, one of the biggest mistakes he made was he asked people a little bit too passionately, "How are you?" And after 10 minutes, and when they then began to say, "Well, I haven't told my therapist this, but," and 20 minutes later, he was still listening, and he realized he just didn't want to ask the question with such passion anymore. So I'm not going to ask the question with too much passion. We don't need a pitch from anyone here. We just need actually, so that people will know who's in the room. Because what we're trying to create here are networks and communities. And I've spoken to most of you. We have people here actually studying communities, developing networks. We have people from a whole cross-section. We have people from different countries here, from different backgrounds, from within the university and outside. And see that as we basically run around here. So I'm going to put this piece of paper into a microphone. And I'm going to ask each person to pretend I'm a former school teacher. That's why I'm projecting my voice. So I'm going to ask each of you just to say your name and where you're from or why you're here, very shortly. And the final thing is, please, I ask you, a big, big theme for this evening is listening. Everyone up here, we've spoken about it, are listening to ideas. And usually what happens here is nobody listens to who the other people in the room are because you're all too worried about what you're going to say yourself. So all you have to say is your name, so don't worry about that. But just listen, because there's someone you might say, you know what, I can connect with them afterwards. And this is the theme that Owen was talking about earlier. Social innovation is very much like that. Everyone is together, and people can say, you know what, I need to talk to that person afterwards. Already one or two people said they want to talk to me. That's brilliant. That's what we want. So we're going to start at the back with
John Higgins.
John Higgins.
Social innovation.
Ah, great, great.
Deirdre Mortel, Social Innovation Fund.
So social innovation fund people, and we like the people in the back seat of the bus, they all went down hiding on the back there.
Driver for Oliver. Yeah. It's a very important person.
Oliver has a personal driver. This is significant. So we're now going to try and figure out how you made the millions out of social innovation. Give us again. Who's at home here in this?
Rachel Hilliard, lecturer in innovation and entrepreneurship.
Very good.
Mike Captain, School of Business and Economics.
Okay, so now a few people asked serious questions on research.
Michael Smith, School of Enterprises.
I won't tell you, Mike is a big budget, but anyway.
Tom Langan, marketer working at a super big supply.
Very good. And where's that based?
Very green.
Okay, great.
Anne O'Brien, PhD candidate in information systems and engagement and ecosystem.
And she also mentioned that she studied politics.
Letícia Brandão, from Brazil, and I'm a civil engineering student doing a research particularly in the area of the social media.
Great. So now we have our international cohort coming up.
Ferdinando Brasil. I study and working with the IIT in Letícia with social innovation.
Very good.
Amália, also from Brazil. I study chemical engineering and Jared as well as social innovation.
And what I like when I met the three of them, each of them are still studying innovation, chemical engineer, neuroscience, and civil engineering. Just really covers everything, doesn't it? Sorry. No, it's too high tech. This is THINKTECH. So we have very high tech. So,
my name is Jerry Hernandez. I'm from Mexico and I'm a PhD candidate in the area of social innovation.
very good. Now, sorry, I have to skip you over the microphone here. And the lead.
Colin O'Dowd. I'm interested in social innovation, entrepreneurship, and philanthropy.
Very good.
And Karen Sweeney, Western Development Commission.
And I do know this guy's name because for the first time ever, when I met someone and he said Bernard, and I'm Bernard, and he's no.
I'm Bernard. Bernard Nicolici, do design and ecological sustainability stuff at freeflowcreativity.com.
Okay, I'm going to take you now because you're just part of this conversation, so you're not an inspector.
My name is Owen Ryan. I'm working for the Social Innovation Fund. I'm the ThinkTech project manager, and I'm another former civil engineer.
Very good.
My name is Dana Shervine and I'm a community development facilitator.
Right.
My name is.
Sorry, this is the man who has his own driver.
My name is Oliver Herbst. I'm a PhD student at the University of Limerick, and I'm a lecturer in entrepreneurship at the IIT in Dublin.
Hi, I'm Emma Murta.
Tell them out there. My microphone.
I'm Emma Murta. I'm a project manager at a non-profit called Proctivate.
Great. Now, of course, all of you here are getting practice for pitching later on. You know, you're pitching to a crowd, so.
I'm Kieran Hanna. I'm a business partner with National Learning Network, which is the vocational training and employment services arm of Rehab.
Great. No, you don't need a microphone. You can't. Oh my God.
I'm Colin Stapleton from Galway Eco Centre in County Sligo, which is involved with environmental education.
Great. We're going brilliantly.
Eileen Lauster. I'm the Social Enterprise and Development Officer with the Galway City Partnership. Can I borrow that?
That's it.
My name is Paul Flynn. I'm a recovering instructor engineer. I'm now with School of Education and incoming fellow at Tech Innovation.
And is there like an Alcoholics Anonymous for recovering students?
My former group.
Right, okay.
Greg Payne, Technology and Innovation, background in sports science, and Tech Innovate participant.
Okay, sorry, so we already have one social innovation idea group for. Okay, over here.
My name is Siobhan Sumption and I work with Emma at Proctivate Ireland.
Great, and the two of them a while ago, I didn't shake hands with them because they had the stickiest chocolate hands I've seen in a long, long time. So.
My name is Bill Cook and I'm working at sort of a broad based idea for communities to tourism development.
Okay.
With social startups.
Brilliant. And you describe some areas as an entrepreneur, isn't it?
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
I'm Mary Carter and I have a website blog called Yoga Concepts, which is very inclusive and empowering careers and benefit from
Okay. So, namaste.
Lorraine Lynch. I'm a psychologist and co-director of Subaru Psychological Wellness Services and winner of Social Entrepreneurs Ireland.
Now, thank you. Now, before we introduce the next man, I have to say he deserves a round of applause because he was here 1 week ago, standing outside there at the correct time, waiting for all of you to arrive. And he is camped out there for the last week. But the benefit of staying out there, he told me, was that people took sympathy on him from the restaurant and they gave him the sandwiches that were left over at the end of the day. But what he didn't tell you was that he turned up each night at the same time since then so as to get sandwiches. So he's here a week early. I think he deserves a round of applause. I'm working with two women. He was told to come here. So he'll go places in life.
Kieran Walsh. So I'm a sports and exercise engineer, and myself and Laura are working on a startup exercise for children, activity practice for children.
Okay, we give Laura.
I'm Laura Hammond. I work at Kieran and I was the one who sent it to you last week.
Great. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Donica Hughes, business advisor.
Right.
Jill Brown, biotechnology student and working on technology for Parkinson's disease.
Great.
Lachlan Scott, founder of HealthLink.ie and Health PA, so social network.
Agnes O'Shaughnessy from Care Dublin.
Okay.
Sue Target also from Care Dublin.
They've traveled all the way up and they've had someone very important behind who's someone who usually asks the question. So what I really want is, as I said, the conversation begins with just as 2 questions to open things up. And as you see, number 1 question, we're looking at who is currently using tech to solve social issues. Can I just take a feel from within the room? Slide hands up. So who is using tech currently in here to solve any social issues? Looks like. Okay. Owen, can I throw it to you? Generally, you were in Cork last night. You've also been involved in the project so far. This is like 2 of 3. What are you seeing as regards the use of tech in social issues, or where is it, let's say, internationally maybe, as well as just locally?
I think from last night, something that really jumped out at us loud and clear was there's loads of ideas there. I think there's huge enthusiasm, there's huge energy. There are people that have well-formed ideas. There are people that have ideas kind of at concept stage. But what was coming out loud and clear is they didn't fully understand where they sat in terms of what I coined last night was the social innovation ladder. So that ladder, if you come to, let's say, ourselves, we might be able to help you and say, well, we think you're at the 4th rung of the ladder, you're in the 1st rung. And I think just getting that clarity in terms of the space and where you sit in terms of that space allows you to ask the right questions, and it allows us or anyone that's in the space to point you in the right direction. So that was just something generally that we were kind of getting a feel for last night. So there's a lot of it happening. I think there's potential for a lot more of it to happen, but I think the clarity around the social innovation sector is something that I think there's great power in having that conversation. And I think ThinkTech allows us to start that national conversation, because that's what it is. We're looking for ideas that are tested at local level and feel like they can make an impact throughout Ireland and beyond. The sky's the limit.
Okay, great. And that's always should be our aim, is the sky's the limit. Everything should be looked at globally. Oliver, from your accent, you have probably a global perspective. I gather not Irish. Research-wise, what's happening out there, or can you maybe talk to the question for us a little bit?
Well, there's actually research out there, and it was very surprising. I'm not sure, don't quote me. It was done by MIT or by Stanford. And it was very interesting in technology that we very often jump ahead of ourselves. And there was one example of technology for the aging society. There were people who have never used an iPad, never used an iPhone, and there was a lot of activities done to give them a chance to catch up with the technology. And the results from the study was that it is not necessary to invent a new Facebook for older people. It is not necessary, or is even unnecessary from the product development point of view, to develop a new smartphone for older people, because you don't want to use separate technology. You don't want to use an individual for older people to develop software or develop phone, because you don't want to stand in the bus and that people pointing out, oh, they're older, you're using one of the simple one devices or whatever. So what they really want is to use the same technology to communicate with their family, with their grandchildren, but maybe the software who involves them, who makes them kind of learning program on how to use software, like Facebook or whatever, that is a point where a social innovation could take part, off, to give kind of use technology, not to replace technologies are out there already or devices, but how to use them and how to enable people to get used to that, maybe software for that would be more appropriate. And that was very fascinating in a study done that a lot of people try to develop things they are actually not necessary. So we don't really ask the people who is it for, do they want that kind of thing? No, they actually want different things. And that may be one thing for this group here or this evening or for the whole campaign. Really talk first, get out there, talk first to the people what you really want and what you really need before you start to jump too deep in and develop somewhere. But it's maybe a fascinating product with loads of benefits and loads of features, but really nobody wants it except you because it's so close to you developed it.
Okay, good advice. Eilish, can you talk to us a little bit about your own experience because you're in this space?
Listen to Oliver and what he's saying. I'm in agreement with him. In my experience, the best products that have been developed have usually been out of something tragic or something personal that has led somebody to try and look for a solution to fix their own problem. They're ordinary people. They're not tech experts. They're not quiz kids. They're people that are looking for a solution to maybe solving a personal issue that they have themselves. I give examples there of some of the people in Social Entrepreneurs Ireland that have developed apps for, I mentioned to you before on, Aviva Cohen would be an example. She's a woman whose husband had a stroke it or phrase it this way. And sometimes people think, well, I'm not going doing this, and I'm not going to tell them this, and I couldn't be bothered doing this. And you're like, I know the system is hard, but if more people spoke the same language, the whole process would be easier.
Okay, so we're identifying certainly a challenge here. It's the communication, it's language, it's, again, I suppose based on the listening skills. Anyone, anything else you want to say particularly?
Another problem that I came across 2 years ago, and it was actually one of the New Frontiers coming with there as well, was that when you're trying to do something, a technical application that has a social good, you come across enterprises that are already out there that are maybe on the other side that are kind of saying, no, we're not going to let you network with us. I mean, as we mentioned earlier on there, like an application on its own is great, but if you really want to get value out of it, it needs to connect to other applications. So that data can be correlated and put together and get a real picture of what's going on, say for a patient or a kid that's got diabetes, etc. And one of the biggest problems is the enterprises out there don't see the good of connecting with somebody else. There's a lot of closed systems, a lot of, like I say, a lot of Apple systems around, right? Not enough Android systems around, where there's open APIs and that kind of stuff. It becomes a real struggle. So you have to go off then, like I've done now 2 years later, and go the other side of it, where I actually have to create the whole side of things. So basically I'm working on patient application.
Right.
For looking at your data and records and that kind of stuff. Okay. That's what I was originally looking at in the Frontiers. And then I came across this massive wall of the GP software providers that were out there were saying, no, you can't connect to us. We don't want to have anything to do with that. So it fell on its feet. So now I'm on the other side of it. I'm actually creating the GP software stuff as well as the patient stuff just to get the thing over the line. So often there's a problem outside of launchpads, accelerators, universities, where money comes into and greed of IP, etc. That can be a real problem. And things like social innovation, social entrepreneurs, and that kind of stuff. Hopefully, they're going to start breaking down those barriers a little bit to show it's okay to connect with other things, technology-wise.
Okay, brilliant. Has anyone else come across that problem, or has anyone else found that someone would had that problem, but then found someone would engage with them?
Yeah. Had the same problem. In terms of the suggestion, actually, what you're dead right, trying to sell a module as next to possible, but it could actually be used to connect with social innovation, because you are at a level that a B2B talk can actually occur. So when the Googles and the rest of it or other people, they will listen to you, they will not listen to a startup. So what we kind of need is a parallel referral network that acts as a kind of a, because what at the other side, what the multinationals don't want to do is they are scared stiff of getting stuck with this thing that they don't know.
Right, yeah.
So if you can manage the interface a little bit easier for them, and then that definitely you can talk at that level, which you don't start with that.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so now we have identified another rung on the ladder. Anyone else anything to say about that, or anyone else have come across situations like that?
Just in relation to the whole issue of IP, we're trying to connect 4 technologies together and trying to get 4 technologies.
Sorry, when you say we, could you just
sorry?
No.
I have a project with the National Learning Network, and it's around transport for people with impairments, and we're trying to get 4 technology companies to talk to each other, and that's extremely difficult.
Sure.
Because the internal checks and balances that they have around their own IP is so fearsome, especially when they're large multinationals, that it takes 6 months to get a single response from one of them. And then trying to get 4 of them into the same room to say, listen, if you could combine your technologies, we can do this. That's very difficult. What we found is that if you approach small startup companies that happen to have the same technology, they're much more amenable.
Okay.
And they're much more open. They're of a different generation. They're in a different space in their life cycle. They're thinking, God, this could make a bit of money for us as well. Grand, and it's much easier to have that conversation. So that might be an option.
Can I just ask you on that? So let's say when you are trying to open the doors with the multinational, and you say that with such enthusiasm, the secret, or is there a secret of how you manage to do that?
I would say I would do it very differently now than I did 2 years ago.
Okay,
when
great.
I started out. you have to understand the internal structures within the organizations.
Yeah.
You have to understand the culture within the organizations
Yeah.
and the politics.
Yeah.
And you need a champion.
Yes.
Um,
And can I add to that, your champion has to see value themselves within that organization
Yeah.
for their career.
Yes, but also it also helps if the champion happens to be someone who's connected, say, to someone who has an impairment.
Yes.
So that it's personal. So, for example, we got someone to open doors for us because their brother was autistic, and that literally they were phenomenal for us.
Yeah.
And I would encourage people in the same way when you're reaching out to ask people like, "What do you want?" You know, be very aware of say people in the news or whatever who can maybe you can connect to who can do that for you.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much. And that is a real learning for I think everyone here. Person being through it in a different way, but you're totally right. You got to get the person the champion. Anyone anything else to say on that? Yes, brilliant.
I suppose I think there's a broader opportunity as well at a policy level.
Yeah.
Joined up innovation policy would suggest that you leverage your innovative capacity through other departments. So, you know, transport should be signed up to supporting Ireland's innovative capacity. Health should be signed up to supporting our innovative capacity. And if you start to use public procurement, you know, not just about cost efficiencies, but about a broader contribution, there's an opportunity there. And maybe that's something for the Social Innovation Fund, you know, that's an argument to make at a different level.
Okay.
But,
and it's brilliant because you just took, because my next question was going to be, Ruth, was have any of you, so we talked about the more national players here, have any of you found the same difficulty dealing with government? And people smile. I see some smiling. I hear some smiling behind me.
Well, I find the challenge with public procurement is it may be absolutely perfect for what you want to do, and you look great on paper, but the minute you get to the nitty-gritty of what they want, they want like €1 million insurance backup, and that's just not something that any startup can do, like, you know. So it's I don't think public procurement network is for the startup or for the at least for the early stage anyway. You have to be well established to be able to kind of get anywhere. I stopped taking the etenders.gov emails about a year ago from that because of these. They're really, even though they have to tender to everybody, they're really looking for a certain level, like mid to large size organization to work with. So that can be a little bit frustrating. I'm not trying to be negative, but but this is my experience with it.
This is perfect because this is the challenge that is faced, and then this is something where somebody has to actually take that challenge on and say, well, for startups, does there really have to be €1 million of insurance or a specific turnover? Because how does it work? Oliver, I'm going to go back to you. Sorry, man.
Yeah, just to the point of public procurement and the ability for social enterprises, for startups to apply for it, and even for established and bigger social enterprises, it's very often a problem to apply on their own for for public procurement. But we have example, or there's research there, especially with in the UK with public procurement. It's a far bigger and advanced development than it is here. But that's companies now are teaming up, like social enterprises teaming up with traditional enterprises to give them the social impact, what is looked for in the papers, to give them a chance to apply for that. And then, of course, there's benefits for the social enterprise to sit in with them. And that's how they grow as well and how they can scale. So that's a chance for them to come in to the bigger contracts, to team up with the traditional enterprise. And of course, it fits the box as well for the traditional enterprise. First of all, to have a social impact, it kind of going. And many of them use the CSR as a marketing, let's ever call it whatever you want, but it's good for their CSR programs as well. So.
Okay, great. Did I see you, Ailish, going to say?
Saw me scowl actually. I was just going to say that with the public procurement, it's so frustrating that the really big organisations get the contract and then subcontract it out to other organisations down the line. So many people have got a piece of the pie that you're thinking, how much could have been saved in the long run if you gave it to a smaller organisation in the beginning? It is frustrating, and to get to that stage where you're actually in with the chance of getting a contract, you would have needed years of therapy and support and resilience, to have got to the point where, I know it sounds daft, but the amount of people I know that have failed miserably because they didn't have the right conversation at the right time. It could have been saved in the first year if somebody sat them down and taught them how to do it. and I'm one of those people. But I've wasted years putting in really ridiculous applications because I haven't actually spoken to the right person who could show me where I was going wrong or what could have been better. So I feel now that when you've walked that route, if you can give back to somebody else and say, please don't do what I did, and you've much greater chances.
So if someone who spent 2 years, you spent many years, I'm grey here because I spent many years. My life was spent between education. I'm a teacher, but I'm involved in training teachers, but I spend a lot of time working with companies, getting funding from them to actually run projects. So I see it from both ways, and then trying to get education to actually buy into this. And it's a challenge. It's a major challenge. And just a simple example would be a conversation where someone was talking about a great project, and my view is that won't succeed because someone will say it's Department of Health, someone will say it's Department of Education, and both departments will play it off each other. So you got to realize it's one or the other. Then you may succeed. So again, it's the conversation in the room is experience. What experiences we can all bring to help each other, because if you look at it, it's social good we're talking about here. Anyone else, something that might fit in with that or experiences they have?
I think that from personal experience from a mentor once spoke about before what you're saying about the kind of political structure of a company. A mentor of ours was given a story about how they used to sell software and how he would go into like revolutionary software into an IT company and would go to the CTO and kind of explain to him, and he kept getting stonewalled. They said it's a great idea, and he didn't understand why they wouldn't take it. They all thought it was great, and then realized like later on he decided he'd have one meeting with one of the CFOs, and he went to the chief financial officer of that company and said, this is going to save you millions. So it was him who then went to the CTO and said, we're getting this. Basically, the CTO didn't want to put his job or his employees' jobs not at jeopardy, but it was going to be a lot more work for him. So if you talk to the right person in the company, I think it can make a massive difference.
Yeah, very, very, very true. That applies in any organization. Alria?
Yeah, I don't want to say the one big challenge, what I see, there's a lot of technology there, and there's like a lot of technology and ideas there, but very often we have the problem that we can't fit a business model to it. We have all the good ideas, and that's good, but it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable if you don't have a business model, it will never be sustainable. Well, there is a difference between sustainability and self-sufficiency. So if I have enough donation, if I get enough grant money, I can be sustainable forever as long as enough money comes in. But then I also have to listen to other people, and I might don't like what they tell me, but if they give the money, who pays for the party, can say what music you play. But the problem is that there should be some recognition for the social benefits, for the civic wealth creation, if you want so. For the social value is a very vague and very strange concept where we can't say what it means for that. But for the benefits for society, everybody knows. Everybody has kind of a feel what is social value or what is good. I give you something, and if you like it, if you take it back from you, you will miss it, and that's the benefit. So if you kind of get the government or whoever is responsible for legislation, get to acknowledge what is good for society and would fund that little bit, then weak business models would actually fit for purpose for social enterprise. But we don't have that. If you go to a local development company or go to the layers, and if you don't fit within the bills, if they can't fill out the proper reports for it, if you don't have the strong financial indicators, then we can't support you. Even if you want to, find it very hard to support you anyway, because you just don't fit the bill, because the bill is made or the legislation is made for traditional enterprises. So that's the key problem, that we use all the measures what we have for traditional enterprise and put it on social enterprise, but social enterprises are not fit for that at the moment. It has to be modified for social enterprises. That's
Michael, isn't it? Yeah, you're in that social enterprise space.
We are, yeah. So School Enterprises in Ballyban, we do the School Awards, we have an enterprise centre, and we give cheap nominal rates for social enterprises in the enterprise centre. We've just partnered with the Department of Jobs, Enterprise Innovation, and Enterprise Ireland to roll out Biz Mentors, which is one of our projects. What Biz Mentors is, it's leveraging goodwill. So everybody wants to do good and society change and work towards the best Ireland we can be. And we have leveraged, I suppose, experts or people with a minimum of 10 years experience or 10,000 hours in a particular area, so that you have networks of practice and access to expertise. So from someone that doesn't understand what an IT person is talking to someone that doesn't understand how to apply for grants or write projects or whatever it might be, we try and match you up with a mentor, completely free, and it's done through leveraging social goodwill from people that have been there and done it, and putting them with the people that are trying to take the next steps. So we're in the process of rolling out into Galway, or we're in Galway and have been for the past 4 years. So just to give you an example, Lorraine from Subaru there would have came to us in the initial stages of our startup, and we would have matched her with a mentor that she needed at that specific time to combat a challenge. So the Leo, for example, may not have been able to help because they didn't fit the bill, exactly what you're saying. Whereas we're completely inclusive. We help everybody. So if you have an idea, if you're in college, and I don't mean just helping mentor, so it's structured mentoring, which is a 6-stage process, completely developed. It's been recognized as one of the most developed volunteer mentoring programs in Western Europe. Speaking about a mentoring event in London in February. So we match you with a mentor, someone that you need at that specific time. You go through the process of that mentoring. It's 3 one-hour sessions. Your contract ends. You achieve hopefully what you want to achieve, or gain the access to the expertise that you wanted to gain, and then you can reapply into a different area. We do 9 different areas, from HR, PR, sales, marketing, IT, legal, whatever it might be. And it's them giving back, I suppose, because they've been in industry, they've been there, done it, and have the scars of running their own business. That's the mentors. We have 114 of them in Galway, and hopefully we'll have many more in Mayo and Roscommon when it does roll out later this year. So it'll be Mayo by Q4 of this year, Roscommon of Q1 next year.
Sligo.
Sligo, hopefully, if the government fund it. So we're partnering with them because as school, we operate in Galway. We don't have a mission for the whole of Ireland. We are a social enterprise based in Galway, looking at societal change for our city and county. But we do believe that this has the capacity to grow and to be a pocket of mentors in every single county, so that societal change happens nationally, internationally, globally. Yes, we are using tech to do this. You can do it online. So if you match a mentor that's better suited, that's in Mayo and you're in Galway, you can facilitate that mentoring online through Skype or whatever else it might be. So it overcomes the not fitting the bill for the current public structures. And just to touch on what Ada was saying earlier, it's that we do this because of a problem we've encountered. And that is the problem, that unfortunately in public structure there are criteria that you have to hit. In tender structures there are criteria. You have to be at a certain threshold or whatever it might be. What we're trying to do is get rid of that and be completely inclusive, so that everybody has a chance, not just commercial entities, but social, charity, non-for-profits, whatever it might be. So that's these mentors. We believe it really helps in terms of access to people that have that knowledge that you might lack, because you can't know everything when you're trying to start out, even though it's expected of you. So I'd be delighted I'd be here for the evening if anybody wants to talk about a little bit more about it. It's bizmentors.ie, and again, as I said, completely free, online. Have a look, and if it works, it works.
Yeah, sorry, there's something clear here too.
Yeah, so both Agnes and I, we carry a development company, and it's touching on, I think, both the previous speakers. We have funded quite a few social enterprises through the LEADER program, mostly. The social inclusion program also has a very small remit, but I would say LEADER is the one. We haven't had much experience on the tech side because we haven't had tech social enterprise ideas come to us. But I think there's a fair amount of flexibility in the LEADER program for interpreting the outcomes and benefits. I think that program really looks mostly for the sustainability of the idea, more than huge job creation or particular KPIs. Now it's getting a bit more like that. Pobble is in between it and the department now, so we may find it gets more and more. But I think it is, I wouldn't write off the local development companies. They're different everywhere. It's like any organization, personalities are different, but it's a program where creative thinking can enable a lot of projects rather than black and white interpretation of the rules.
Great, we sparked some debate. Western development comes in here.
Yeah, it's slightly on the funding side of things as well. we're a regional development organisation and we provide venture
That's nice,
capital.
Western Development, just to,
Yeah, Western Development Commission, and we provide venture capital and seed funding loans for business startups, scaling, expansion. And when it comes to kind of larger scale, maybe community social good projects, where they might need $1 million behind the project, really, really good, but it's difficult to show kind of the KPIs, to show the payback capability on certain projects. And I think what's missing is kind of the kind of slow payback kind of investor principle, whereby you get a loan, but there's a very, very slow payback process on it. Whereas when it's venture capital, you want an out. You want to be out of that company. You want to be out of that business within 3 years. So there's something missing there, just in terms of the bridging between, there having to be a payback on a loan.
okay, great. So we're identifying continually here, I think, different gaps that are appearing, which Deirdre and Owen are going to be busy cementing all these cracks. Anybody else got something that they want to add into the mixing pot? Because I think we're moving more into question 3 here, because we're talking about development and scale. I think the last few conversations, what are the opportunities for the sector to better utilize tech to develop and scale ideas? I think that's one thing we have always to keep in mind. The market is not just local. The market is now global. Anybody want to talk to that, or anybody experienced that?
Just there's a challenge opportunity, but
we can say, I've missed you at the start, I think.
Sorry, Eamon, yeah.
Eamon, and you're?
World Sports Team is our start.
Okay, sorry, we just went around everyone.
Apologies for relation.
No.
Yeah. So basically, our problem is we're trying to educate. People understand what we're trying to do, but then they want to educate. We got to educate them on how we're doing it. It's all online, and it's a different model of. It's a data-driven social impact model.
Right.
But by the time we've almost exhausted ourselves explaining it every time, because it's a completely different. You're talking about investments. People don't invest in early stage companies if they've changed to get the market first.
Right.
They'll invest in the next guy quite quickly. They won't invest in the first guy. And so that's a challenge we're facing significantly.
Okay, great. Another challenge. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else? Anybody else? Can I just go back a little bit on the mentors? Because mentors came up being mentioned a lot there. Can people talk maybe perhaps about some experience they've had of mentoring? Anyone who's got good examples of good mentoring, or people who would advise?
Great example.
Okay.
Donica was our business mentor. We got Donica from Michael, and we have literally been saying for the last 2 years that we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for this mentors Skull in general. But we applied for the Skull Awards 2 years ago, and at the first interview, it was they asked us for our business plan, and we were like, "What's that?" We literally had nothing done. So at that stage, yeah, we got business development mentor to kind of help us work through it. And so now we can totally get it. But now I'm just thinking, actually, now we need to eat more. So I'll actually get to
So now you've made a pitch. Okay. So she praised you, and then she's done the ask. Very good. Very skillful. So there's a lesson for everyone. Praise the people, and then come over there. Anybody else who's experienced mentoring or?
Yeah, I got Skull as well in its early days as Skull mentors. And I wouldn't have set up the nonprofit that I have without that influence from the mentor. He was just he kind of got me to the stage where and he kept going past the 3 things, which they sometimes do, which is great, 3 dates or whatever appointments. But he finally sat me down. He said one day, "What's stopping you?" And I couldn't think of anything to stop me. I was talking with him, and I went and the next day set up the company. So it was an amazing experience. Really valuable to have that. He had 30, 40 years of experience within businesses. Well,
can I come to maybe all one of you? I'm not sure which area. Mentoring within social innovation. Kind of what's the research saying on it? How significant is it? Is it the idea before the mentor? Is there anything on that? No.
Not from the work I do. We
Okay.
take more on opportunities. Oliver, I don't know.
Sorry, we've someone, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So my PhD is basically, well, it's social entrepreneurship now, but the first year I did the literature review in social innovation.
Great.
And one of the main challenges, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. So social innovation, the biggest challenge is like it's very difficult to measure. And because of that, you never know at what stage you are, as Owen was mentioning before, like probably to have like a later kind of framework to see at what stage you are and what type of support and all that. And because it's very abstract also to measure social change, it can be seen a bit like a little bit of like an art. How do you measure art, how good it is, how bad it is? And sometimes when you're doing social entrepreneurship or social innovation, you're doing it out of passion. But for somebody to get you to fund something you're doing, it has to be really good. But how do you show the potential if you're at an early stage? So that can be a bit challenging. And one of the main gaps in literature is the lack of consensus of how to measure these types of projects. So I think this is great. And I hope to get something very good through my research. But as Rachel mentioned, that would be one of the debates here within the innovation area.
Okay, well that's great, because I could answer some of the questions about KPIs and this misunderstanding conversation. Owen, do you want to say something?
It's just interesting that Jerry would bring it back to that, because I suppose I started this challenge piece with clarity around the sector, or we'll say clarity around where you sit on that ladder. And I've been taking notes furiously, but two things that jumped out at me was language. So people are clear about what is measurable social impact. So I'm guessing that's one of the questions people say, what do I write down for that? But there is a challenge around ensuring that everyone understands all the terminology. So maybe this is something that we take away from this, that we need to provide clarity across the whole space in terms of what's the right language at the right time, and everyone understands that. But something that's been jumping out at me as the questions have been going around is right person, right time. And understanding where you sit in terms of that ladder, and understanding who you need to speak with, be it early stage, it's getting an understanding for, okay, I need a non-financial support, or I need a mentor, I need someone to guide me here to kind of say what's step two. It's great to know, it's great to have a passion for an idea, but you need to be realistic about the steps that are along that ladder or that journey. And right person, right time was something that actually came up last night, and it's interesting that it seems to be kind of coming out again tonight. So hopefully that's a takeaway for everyone.
Just on that, in my day job, I work with a lot of startups in Dublin. I manage the Youth Enterprise Centre. We run a program with the MBA Association. And we'll be starting it very soon. And they're looking, basically placing mentors from people who've got MBAs, who don't want to show their ivory towers. That's the big attraction for the MBA Association, to show that all of their ivory towers corporate. They can go back in and help early stage. But I know they will have a social enterprise element to that, so I'm happy to share that introduction as well.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so we're making connections, different directions. Yes,
yeah, just another bit to share. The Irish Local Development Network published a report just last week where they talked about social enterprise.
Yeah, pretty good today.
Yeah, and in there they say, yes, you need really, good measuring tools, but in the meantime, you can start with what were your goals, what were your aims, and just at least start with that.
Simplify.
The other thing they suggested, which I thought was really helpful, was to connect with third level education and to get with them about
totally agree.
research.
There's so much talent there,
Yeah.
and I know there's been examples of there are great things happening, but I personally believe from my own experience, having gone through UCC, I didn't utilize. I got lost to social issues because part of it was I wasn't engaging, but I wasn't being engaged as well. I think there is a lot of untapped potential in universities. You're quite right, and it's how do we make those connections, and that's another challenge.
The list goes longer. Anybody else?
Taking it all in.
Yes.
I was actually co-authoring more or less on this report, and I didn't want to say anything about the local development companies. They do a great job, but some of them do better than others. And one thing you see in the report as well, there are 49 local development companies in Ireland, and with a lot of pressure, 16 have answered them. this shows you about the whole spectrum in Ireland, the engagement about government agency in social entrepreneurship. And I don't mean that in a negative way. You have a lot on their plate and a lot to do. But there should be 49 answers in the report, and there are only 16. And there weren't 16 for a long time. There was a lot of pressure on getting people to ask people to ask people to fill the forms out. So that says a lot.
Thanks, Oliver, on that. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to just, sorry, yeah.
Just to go back a second again about mentors, and I know when I was starting out, I was very reluctant to look for a mentor because I thought they'd find out all the deep dark secrets, like 2 months under with receipts, and you know, I was afraid to engage for a while, and I was really lucky that I met a really, really good one at a crucial time. Had a conversation with somebody who actually pointed out everything that I was doing right instead of everything I was doing wrong. And sometimes when you're on a journey on your own in business, there's nobody to tell you where you're going right. And anyone who's afraid to look for a mentor should remember that they're not there to catch you out. They're there to support you and point you in the right direction.
Okay, great point. And particularly I think going back into the third level, because you know it's a different stage of life. So if you have a mentor, I think, can I ask you to say a few words, because you've been involved in some processes and mentoring?
Yeah, I definitely say, as saying, like, right person, right time. I mean, we've myself and Kieran have gone through an incubator, and at the time we were a very early stage startup, and we were being thrown marketing mentors, like sales mentors, and we weren't ready for that. So I think mentors are fantastic, and we definitely wouldn't be where we are today without them. And Donica has helped us so much along the way, as has Michael. But you need to really pinpoint kind of what stage you're at and where you want to go, and then find a specific person to that, because otherwise they're going to lead you astray. And when they could be telling you, well, you should be doing this, this, and this, when really you're not ready for that stage yet. So as right person, right time.
Like if you're still very much idea stage kind of thing, there's no real point refining your business plan, like doing up a business plan and something. Like a great thing that Michael would always have us do is the business model canvas, which is kind of more of a summary of that, and it's a great thing just to start off with. I have one of my friends who has loads of ideas all the time. The easiest way to get him to scrap most of his ideas, which are a lot of the time terrible, is just to get him to do up one of these business model canvas. And a lot of the time when you get into what's your value proposition, and he's never able to answer it. So it's a great way of actually just getting rid of a lot of the bad ideas and kind of refining it down to the good ones.
Okay. Thanks to both of you. I'm going to pop in Adele here, because she's looking at me. Adele, I mean, someone who's been in 10 Downing Street this year, who's been over with the We Are Family Foundation, you know, as a young Irish person when it worked over. What learning have you found that you could say has been positive, negative, or would influence you? Because you're really talking on a global scale, the kind of people that you've met when you were in New York, obviously when you were in 10 Downing Street.
From the mentoring.
Yeah, from mentoring or from any perspective you started.
From, I suppose, from a mentoring perspective, so the We Are Family Foundation thing in New York. So it was basically a week-long program for projects that had a basic human need. So the human need that my project is addressing is health. So they picked 30 different projects to go over to New York for the week and we got a really intensive mentoring sessions on everything from photography to business plans, things like that, over the course of the week. And then at the end of it, we all got assigned a mentor. And my mentor she's like 26, and she's the head of business development for Palantir, which is a massive software engineering company. And like one of the other girls got the head, so she's really interested in working with United Nations and groups like that. And she got the head of UN Women, which was a pretty cool mentor to get, but trying to keep in touch with them is the problem. A lot of the times you can get a fantastic mentor and they don't reply, or you can get a local mentor and know them really well and have really great engagement from them. So I suppose from our point of view, a lot of the more local mentors have actually been more useful to us than the ones that have really good jobs and have really good connections, because they don't keep in touch as much. So the thing I found, I suppose, is to keep every like network going, but to
keep in touch with us with what's actually helping you the most, really.
Okay. Good advice.
Dylan makes a great point there. It's the right person for you.
Yeah.
They don't just feel that a mentor should be bludgeoned on you. It's what's going to work best for you. That's going to give you the best value. It's great to have someone next to your name. This is my mentor, but if you're getting nothing out of it, what good is it?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to speak up and say, I think I need someone different.
Anyone else on that one? Okay, so I'm kind of conscious about like time I had perhaps for 15 minutes, but some people I know have come here tonight to perhaps throw questions at home about the whole Social Innovation Fund. So I don't want people to leave the room and not have that opportunity. Now you will obviously have, a chance to mingle around and have a conversation here afterwards, because I know you're staying on, Owen and Deirdre are here for a while afterwards, and Ashley. But is there anything specific that people want to, have an open conversation, ask Owen some questions? Oliver, yes?
Yeah, I would like to ask Owen.
No, this was not a plan.
Sorry. Am I allowed to do that?
You are, of course.
Particularly your conversations.
Particularly if it's a good hard question, because Ashley now has him on camera watching his reaction. So go for Oliver.
No, very, very easy, very nice question. But intellectual property is always a problem, especially if somebody else funds your product.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm a social entrepreneur, or if I think social entrepreneurial, and come with you with an idea, and I just know I have an idea, and that's what I like to achieve, and there's a black box between. It might be a phone, might be a tablet, might be something technology. I don't know yet. So you put Google in place and they bring all the engineers and software knowledge, and they developed something, but it was my idea originally. Who owns that idea? You?
That's a very good question. As part of the ThinkTech program and as part of the application form process, we are stating that you need to have proof of concept. So if you've got an idea and it needs to be tested, you need to have recorded it. And I think this is what I would say to everyone. Your background, you guys need to know exactly what it is you've made and be able to list that very, very clearly, because we are kind of more at the venture capital stage. So we are looking for the ideas that have gone through, if I go back to my ladder analogy, those maybe steps 1 to 3 that have maybe gone through the incubator, not necessarily so, but have gone through the incubator, have gone through the early stage, have measured the social impact, and are now looking to refine the model, looking to scale and grow. That's what we're looking to provide, growth capital. So the idea needs to be well defined. The IP, you need to know exactly what it is, and you need to be able to very, very clearly define it.
And if you don't, and Google about it, Google owns it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not a good idea to go into the program expecting to be building a product. That's not what the program is about. It's about taking a product that has been worked on and has been refined, and they understand exactly what it is. And I think one thing that we'll be saying to applicants when they make the application form, and that we're speaking with them down the line if they're successful, is just be, you've got to list all of that out. You really need to understand your product and understand what the background IP is, essentially.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions that I think some people had? Yeah.
So Owen, if we were to apply for the funding you are offering, can you explain what it consists? I know what it is, but I would like to hear it from you.
Sure. So you can get up to 200,000 euros in funding. You can also get a suite of non-financial support. So we've spoken a bit about that during the discussion, the importance of having the right person at the right time. You still need that. Even if your idea is well developed, you're looking to scale across all of Ireland and maybe beyond. How are you going to do that? And we don't expect you to know exactly how. So you're going to need help with that. And then there's also a suite of Google products, because Google are co-funding the program. You're going to be able to avail of all the wonderful things that they provide, which allows you set yourself up to go out to market and absolutely smash it and scale across the whole country. And obviously then there's the 5-month program as well. So there's the continuous engagement from Social Innovation Fund, from the non-financial supports. I suppose we're not prescriptive in terms of exactly what you need. that is something that we will sit down and go through with you, and you set out your objectives, and you decide, okay, well, we need a bit more of this, maybe not as much of that, and that'll be tailored to suit, essentially. So there's obviously still quite a bit to go, but we're really excited about receiving ideas and helping them scale and grow and make real measurable social impact this week, coming up again and again.
Anyone else have a question as regards the process? Yeah, sure.
My question is there any restrictions on who can apply? So can a local development company apply? Could a group of local enterprises apply? Could another government body apply for the funding?
So the funding, as per the application form, is restricted to social enterprises, to charities, and is not-for-profits as well. Now, what we would say to people is come and talk to us. Just have the conversation. Don't be turned off by something that you see on the application. Ask the question. Just get on to us at hello@socialinnovation.ie or owen@socialinnovation.ie, and we can talk this through.
Could you just clarify, maybe I was out there, could you clarify what your opinion of the social enterprise is? Is that for-profit, not-for-profit, etc., as long as it's to the social good, or is your consideration of social enterprise one that's non-profit?
That would be traditionally set up as not-for-profit, but we're not restricting it to that. I mean, what we're saying is, so I can't remember the exact question. It asks you to specify the type of company. I think once you identify that process, then there might be a chance for more dialogue then after that.
Okay, so
I mean, social enterprises in a traditional sense, not-for-profits and charities are the three sectors that we're.
What do you mean in traditional sense?
Yeah, it's only a very recent thing.
Okay, yeah. So social enterprises, from my own experience, having kind of been in the space, would traditionally be set up as companies limited by guarantee or as a trust. I don't think that's as popular, but typically that company structure.
That wouldn't be my experience over the years, but and that's why my question is a bit worrying now at this stage, because there are, I think even within Skull, the social enterprise, I think he just finished there. They were for-profit, majority were for-profit social enterprises, isn't that?
So maybe that's probably
something to look at.
Yeah, for further discussion.
Just to understand exactly, because we don't want to go through this whole process of going for funding without and then kind of go, oh, actually you're not.
So perhaps that's the first stage in the conversation, is it's individual case by case. Was, as you said, before you go into it, then let's put the question and see what the answer is.
Because there might be a solution that is very clear.
Sorry, I just before, is there someone over here? I just hold you a second, and Deirdre wants to say. Yep.
So just to come in behind Owen and do the social innovation as well. So legally, we can only fund not-for-profit entities, of which there are obviously a number of different legal forms that can take. But what we're saying is, if your social enterprise is set up in a for-profit legal form of some type or another, we're saying, don't just ditch the idea of applying, talk to us, and let's have a conversation about whether there's something we can do there. So we're not wanting to be sort of definitive about if your social enterprise has a for-profit legal form, because what we can fund is defined by legal forms, and that's why, so social enterprise clearly is a legal form, and that's why we're being a little bit vague, because the link between the term social enterprise and the legal forms is a bit tenuous, if you like. So if you think you have an idea that's matching up with what we're talking about on ThinkTech, and it's set up in a for-profit legal form, rather than walking out the door and saying, right, well that's that, we're saying, have a chat with us, there might be a way that we can do something, but it will be harder and we may or may not be able to. So we're just trying to be clear about that. If you're set up with a non-profit legal form, fill in the application form.
Yeah.
Okay. What are we going to say?
I just kind of, I was a little bit, maybe a little bit contradicted to what Owen said. There's no such thing as from the traditional sense of social enterprise. Yeah. Because I just wanted to say that it's very complicated with social enterprise, and I'm glad you heard that Deirdre said you are open, and it's not really important that you make a profit. It's important what you do with the profit, and if you can provide evidence that your profit goes back in your enterprise, then you might be a little bit to be there. But I think there's one thing what came out of the report, or one outcome of the report was, if we narrow down the definition of social enterprise too much, we might have not enough left of really potential social enterprise to bring the whole sector forward. And we can't forget that they're basically, I mean, that's debatable. There are 4 big schools of social entrepreneurship or social enterprise out there. The first one are the Ashoka fellows, it's the social entrepreneurship school, who explicitly focused on the individual, on the social entrepreneur, and on the social innovation part. So if there's no social innovation, and they only fund the social entrepreneur, not the social enterprise. And then there are 3 different schools. They're the American school. Anyway, 2 Americans is the Ashoka fellows. They're here in Ireland as well. And then we have the second one is the social enterprise school. So it's the Skoll Foundation, for example, focused on non-profit and so focused on the social enterprise. So there are 2 different ones. And then we have the European ones, is the European framework, who said any social or mission-driven company is a social enterprise who has, and it has to have one income stream, what is not grant money, but is something else than government or donation. So it has to be a commercial stream of income. And then they focus on multi-shareholder, so who owns the company, and that's important for them. But they also focus, the European focus very much on local development, local innovation. And then we have the UK school, and they focus very much to the European take it over from them, but they focus more on the macro environment. So they want to know what is good for the UK, what's good for the society overall. So if you see already there are 4 different schools, and that's why it's so complicated to define them, because they came from completely different streams. They're different, but if you take it like as the North Star, so we know all their stars, and we have the skies, and they're beautiful in the evening, we have all the stars, and there's one North Star. That might be the one definition. But they're not all the same, but without the other one, we don't really have a pretty sky. So we just see how close or how far are they away from them, but we won't have the ideal state. And sometimes they are shifting, you know, there will become, especially when you scale, your whole constellation of the enterprise will change, and your whole structure will change. So sometimes if you have a very challenging, very difficult moment, you might have to become a little bit more business-like. And then when you have the good times, and you might become a little bit more social again, because now you're able to do it. You need to allow the company to make this kind of shift and transition, because otherwise they won't be sustainable. And it's really in the research there. Sometimes you have to step out, and you might be not as social as you want, but if you don't do the step, you won't be there next day anymore, and everything is gone. So,
thank you. I see it as you're nodding your head in agreement. Do you want to add to that, as we're kind of in a wrap-up phase here, and I'm going to take you. No, okay.
No, I was just going to say, in dealing with organisations over the years of accessing funding, I've never found anybody who pay an electricity or a heating bill for any business or organisation. So when you start saying to people, how are you actually going to have money at the end of the month to pay the normal bills, the everyday bills, the bills a funder wouldn't look at, and they get angry at times that they don't want to have the money conversation. And sometimes there's but we're in it for the social benefit, and when you start talking about profit, there can be a very fine line between people not saying they don't want to hear about it, but you're like, this is a charity and this is for social good, and you're kind of like, yeah, but if you want it to be sustainable, we really need to have the money conversation, no matter. And they look at you as really capitalistic and materialistic, and that's not what we're about. But unfortunately, it's a harsh reality for everybody, and money really does matter. In not-for-profit or whatever organisation you're dealing with, you have to have the conversation, and you shouldn't apologise for it.
I might only want to kind of reinforce that, and it's a very interesting point coming out from my research on social enterprise growth, is that the language changed. That the companies who are less successful, or maybe not as a developing stage as it could be, they are kind of trying to avoid to use profit. If they make anything, they speak about surplus. They don't say profit, and they're kind of embarrassed to say even if they make surplus. But the companies who have made the transition, maybe from the community enterprise to the social enterprise, and not only for the benefits of, it's a very trendy word to use, they are really empowering, embracing this, and said, we have a really good and successful business model. We're making money, we're making profit, and we're proud of making profit. And even so, it was for them to be hard to translate it to the board of directors sometimes. And you change some of my company or some of the companies interview, and you see really the binding line between the one are more successful or the one that's thinking more business-like. And then it's really the important thing not to forget your values. You have to be very clear from your values, because as soon as money comes in and starts out, you might forget them because money corrupts. And you have to be very strong and has to be imprinted into your DNA why you're doing it. And it's really what you're doing it and why you're doing it is important. Even if you're making profit, that's not a dirty thing. It's just important what you do with it and how you can justify what you do with it. And as it still serves the social purpose, it's a good thing.
And I don't mean to be flippant, but I think a lot of people in the room would be very happy if they got to that stage and then had to worry about what to do with the money. So thanks for that. Is there anyone else wants to say anything? I'm going to come on to wrap because we're at just past 7:30. Okay, so the conversation could go on. Owen, do you want to say a few words just to wrap? Overall, you've been taking plenty of notes.
Yeah.
Are there some, I suppose we've looked at who is currently using it, the challenges. I think we've heard a lot about that. But I think we've also seen and heard a lot about opportunity. So you want to say a few words on that before we
I think, I suppose, just maybe first a few thanks very much to Natalie in the Vaccine Launchpad, because obviously this would have happened. And Bernard, thanks to your expert moderation. It's been a very interesting evening, and obviously to English and to Oliver for forming an excellent panel. But it's so encouraging to see so many people actively engaging in the space, because we're not saying that we know exactly and have all the answers to the social innovation sector, but we want to include everyone. We want to understand how they all feel about the sector, and I suppose work together to try and creating that extra bit of clarity. And that's the word that I keep on using, clarity in terms of everyone's understanding. And if they've got an idea, how do you go about scaling that and having huge impact across the whole country? So, I mean, I'm going to try and record as much as this as possible, and I'm just hoping for that greater engagement. And if anyone has any questions, my email is owen@socialinnovation or hello@socialinnovation. We'll get to Ashley and get to Deirdre. But it's just so encouraging to see, and I just harnessing that energy, harnessing that sense of purpose, I think is something that within this sector is so powerful, and it really drives people on. And I think when you reach out, the right people will reach back. And that kind of goes back to the points that were made in this part of the room to Adele, that it's a really heartening space when you link yourself to a social issue and you ask the question. I often have found in my own brief social entrepreneurial past that the right person will reach back. So just start the conversation, keep it going, and let's get clarity around it, and let's solve some social issues.
Thanks, Owen. Could I finally genuinely thank all of you, every one of you who've contributed tonight, who asked questions, who've come along, because I think a lot of what happened was the conversations you were having before you started, and I think the conversation that will happen after tonight. Social Innovation Fund is fantastic. I was very lucky to sit as part of a project earlier in the year and listen to people for about 3 days on an interview board, and it's amazing what's happening within this country and the social conscience that people bring to that. And I want to thank particularly the people who have travelled, good distances from Clare, we have people from Sligo here, we have people from Mayo here, and of course people came all the way from Brazil to be here tonight. Social Innovation Fund will be underwriting your travel costs.
Take note of that.
Yeah, exactly. You could quote me. Thank you all. Milbekus. Kasulun Gwan Shil Tanavasani, Kasulun Garawam Shil Rodegan, Onia, Milbekus, Natalie, I guess the Dini, and Suklashta, some Oscar Maradurma. It's really central, that development of what's happening at third level to engage with the community. I know it's always been the aim here. of the university to like break those walls, to make this communication, and tech is, you know, obviously one huge way it can be done to go out into the community. So, O'Vain, O'Gackin, and Sean, and the Dine, Origin, Mila Buekas, which means 1,000 thank yous. I've just been speaking Irish, my apologies. I didn't realise. So Sullivan, my Jessica, safe travelling home to all of you, and thank you. And if you want to ask Owen or Deirdre or ask me some questions, I think they're here for a time after. Gurmal. A round of applause.
Yeah, sorry, I have my little setup here. I'm like, ah!